It is so common to be overwhelmed as a human resource personnel by the number of Excel-related tasks you need to do on a daily basis, e.g., employee attendance tracking, data analysis, and key performance indicator. So to help you in your work, I've put together in this video very useful Excel functions, HR use cases, and a downloadable Excel spreadsheet of the examples mentioned. So on our screen here is the very first Excel feature that we'll be looking at, which is the filtering data. So the filtering can be used in other HR areas such as tracking time and attendance in an employee attendance report, active employees report, new employees onboarding report, completion status of performance appraisal. From this particular database that you have here, you notice that you have name, department, and salary. So we can do a whole lot of things, and one of it is to filter this particular database. Now, there's a particular shortcut key that you can use to quickly turn on the filter feature. So you hold down Control, Shift, and your L. I notice that the filter feature is turned on automatically for you. So I'm going to undo what I've just done. So pay close attention to what is happening to the headers. Control, Shift, and L will bring up the filter feature for you. Is that not super awesome? So you can go ahead to format this table accordingly. Is that right? Now, to carry out particular filters, you can actually filter based on particular criteria. So clicking on any of the drop down arrows, you can go to what number filter. You can even decide to deselect any of these, then leave the one that you are much interested with. So going to number filter, you can filter for numbers greater or equal to a particular number, greater than a particular number, does not equal to a particular number, and all this also. So supposing we want to filter for numbers greater or equal to a particular number, and maybe we want to select a given number from the range. Let's say we only want to filter for numbers greater than 3,000, greater or equal to 3,000. So you can also include other criterias, maybe and, or, and as the case may be. It's just super flexible. So you hit OK and it does the filter for you. So all the numbers greater or equal to 3,000 is filtered off for you. How about this? The next Excel feature that the HR will find very handy is the today time function. The today time function is actually used to call today's date. Is that right? Now what you have here is what? The 12th of August 2022. Now, how do you actually add this function? The very first way of doing it is to hold down Control, then your semicolon to add the today's time function. Is that okay? Your Control, then semicolon. So I'm going to undo what I've just done. Control, semicolon. Is that right? Right? Now, if you don't want to go through that method, you can easily use your function equal to today. Is that right? Then open and close bracket, then hit enter, and it does the same thing for you. Also take note that for you to use this particular formula several places in the same worksheet, it will be advisable to always call it up with an equal sign or make reference to it. Is that right? Like if I want to still make use of today formula here, I can easily come here and say equal to, then make reference to this. Because if eventually I have several todays, supposing tomorrow, and I want to work on this worksheet, and I now type in today, it will be conflicting with the today I already have the day before. Hope that is clear. So make sure you use it accordingly. Now the next Excel feature and function that we'll be looking at is the DATEDIF. The DATEDIF function calculates the number of days, months, or years between two dates. And the syntax is this: the DATEDIF, the start date, the end date, then the unit. We've actually made a video before now explaining in detail how to use the DATEDIF function, as well as other advanced example. Go ahead to check the description or click the link up on your screen right away to watch the video. So how do you use this particular function? So in this instance, we want to calculate the age of this particular staff. Is that okay? So how do you use the DATEDIF function? So you hit equal to DATEDIF. So let me just use caps. So DATEDIF. So the diff is DIF. Open up your bracket. Then the start date is actually this, comma, the end date is today's date. Is that right? So open and close. Then the unit is year. So make sure you watch that video detailing how to use the DATEDIF function so that you actually know what we're using here. So there are different units. If you want your outcome to be displayed in year, then this particular string will be what? Y. If you want your final outcome to display in month, then this particular string will be what? M. If you want your outcome to be displayed in days, then this particular string will be what? D. Is that right? So you close it up and hit what? Enter. So supposing I want my particular outcome to be displayed in months. So what I just need to do is to change this Y to what? M. So if I want to know the date of birth of this particular staff, I can change this Y to what? M. But rarely do people use months to know the age of a person, alright? Except in maybe special cases. So that's why most times the Y scenario is always used. So date of employment. So the DATEDIF function can also be used to know the date of employment of a particular staff in an organization. So equal to, just like we've seen the first one, DATEDIF. Open up your bracket. The start date is this, comma, then the end date is today, or you can put a particular end date, but make sure you follow the same syntax. Then we'll have the unit is what? Y. So close up the bracket and hit enter. So this person have actually spent 12 years. So just like Excel can be used for data modeling, so if we change this to 2008, it will update automatically for you. So you can also use the same function to find the date of birth of, or the age of this particular staff. So whichever format the Microsoft Excel date is, you can still use it and it will give you the same answer. Now the next HR Excel function that we'll be looking at is the COUNTIF function. What does the COUNTIF function does? It counts if a criteria is satisfied. On our screen here, you notice that what? We're able to count the number of staff under finance, number of staff under what? HR and all that. So how will we be able to do that? Use the COUNTIF function. So I'm going to delete this immediately, then show us how we can achieve that. Now, what you just need to do is hit what? Equal to COUNTIF. So as you're pressing COUNTIF, it comes up with many options for you. So you select COUNTIF. So the range is what? The column under what? Department. So we're looking at how many times each of the departments appears on the table. Is that right? So the COUNTIF function will be used to achieve that. Then the criteria in this case is what? Finance. Then you close up the bracket and hit enter. So it's trying to tell you that finance appears 2 times. Is that right? So this is just for illustration purposes. In the real world scenario, you find out that you're working with hundreds of data, even up to thousands of data. So you notice that these functions can actually come handy. So what next you have to do is to do same for the second one, do same for the third one, or you can easily replicate your formula and it will give you your answer accordingly. So the next Excel function, HR meets Excel, is the SUMIF function, and the syntax is the SUMIF, the range, the criteria, and the sum range, or the range to sum. So while COUNTIF function counts if a criteria is satisfied, the SUMIF function adds if the criteria is met. Now you notice that what? It's almost the same thing. So for finance, the total sum of salary paid is what? 5,000. For HR is this and all that. So how do we use the SUMIF function? So I'm going to delete this now, and you will start what? Equal to SUMIF. Alright, so select the SUMIF function that I want to use. The range for the SUMIF is what? I want to select the range from the departments, because the many criteria here is what is under the departments column. Is that okay? So I cannot come to the name column to select my range. Does that make sense? So I select my range from the department column, then hit what? Comma. Then the criteria in this case is what? Finance. So if you don't want to select the cell reference of finance directly, you can type in finance but in speech marks. So comma, then the sum range is the column under what? Salary. Then you close up the bracket and you hit what? Enter. So this is trying to tell you that the salary of these guys is what? Under finance is 5,000. So from here you can actually know the department that much salary is being paid to. So in this case is what? Sales. So once you select the whole of this, you can easily do a quick data analysis with it. Is that right? So you can easily do a quick data analysis with it. So you can use these data bars. Then one other thing you can do is to format this as what? Currency. Is that right? So you can format this as currency, as the case may be. So if the text is not visible, you can come here and do this. Make this bold and you are good to go. So that is how to use Microsoft Excel with HR. How about that? So the next Microsoft Excel meets HR is data validation. The data validation feature is used to create a drop-down list. Now you notice that here we have name and we have department. So under name we have Betty. So you notice that there's a drop-down. So how do you create this kind of drop-down in Excel? How do you create this kind of drop-down in Excel? It's very easy. We can achieve that using what? Data validation. So suppose we want to create a drop-down for department. So what you need to do is to head straight to what? The data section of your menu tab. Then go under data tools, you see what? Data validation. So before you click on data validation, make sure the cell where you want to apply the validation rule is selected by default. So data validation, and it should bring up this for you. So what you just need to do is to click this drop down arrow and you can see what? List. Is all right. So the other ways or the other data validation rules that we can apply, but for this instance we select what? List. So it says what? Ignore blank. So it's going to ignore any blank cell. Is okay? That is in the list. Then it also says what? The in cell dropdown is selected. Then the source. Where do you want your list to be selected from? Is it from the name column? Is it from the department column? Is it from the salary column? Is that right? So department definitely will be from department column. So it's actually something you can select based on the header that is selected. Okay, so you just select the whole cell and hit enter on your keyboard. Now you go ahead to hit what? OK, and you have your drop down there. So when you click here, you can select the different department as the case may be. So the next particular Microsoft Excel Meet HR will wow you, because we are going to be combining this data validation with a function called VLOOKUP. Is that okay? So the VLOOKUP function allows you to create formulas that match some text. So the use case is find the department of an employee. How about that? So you notice that for this particular staff, his name is what? Henry. So whenever the name of the staff changes, notice that the salary also changes accordingly with the person. Is that right? So the salary changes with the person. So how do we do that? How can we achieve this? We use the VLOOKUP function. So first off, select the cell where you want to apply the VLOOKUP to. So you hit equal to. So you type in VLOOKUP and you select the function that you want to pick. So the lookup value is this in this case. So any particular name change that occurs here will be our lookup value, because we already have a drop down list in it. That's why the value will be changing as the name change. So comma, then the table array is this whole table. Is that right? So is this whole table. So you select the whole table and you hit what? Comma. The column index number in this case, what column is your department? So you count from left, column 1, column 2, column 3. So department is in column 2. So you type in 2 in your syntax. Is that right? So comma, then the range lookup. So we go with what? False or exact match. So you select false and you close up your bracket and hit what? Enter. So it's trying to tell you that Francis is in the sales department. And are we correct visually looking at it? So Francis is in the sales department. So when you click this drop down arrow, select Charles, notice that Charles is also in sales. Betty, so Betty is in HR. Then Giselle is in HR. Henry is in IT. Then Daniel is in finance. So this is actually how to use the VLOOKUP function with data validation in Excel. So the next one that we're going to look at is pivot table. Some people also call it pivot table. Let me check whether this thing is actually recording. All right, so it's recording. Now, the pivot table is a quick and easy way to create simple reports. So the use case is to recreate the total salary, expense, and employee count for each department. Now, one thing you must take note before creating a pivot table or pivot table is to make sure that your database is designed as a table. Is all right? Make sure that you've actually formatted your database as a table. Once that is done, then make sure that there's no empty cells, either rows or column. So everything is intact as seen on our screen here. Now, when all those criteria are met, you select your table, then go to your home tab, insert, then pivot table. Now it says what? Create pivot table. Choose the data that you want to analyze. We've actually selected the data. So we can actually use an external data source, but that's not what we want to achieve in this case. Choose where you want the new pivot table to be placed. New worksheet, existing worksheet. So if you select existing worksheet, you'll be asked to choose the location in the existing worksheet. So you actually want to use this existing worksheet. So I'm going to select the location, then I'm going to select where my pivot table is going to be. So once you are through, you hit what? Enter. I need to select that for you. You don't have any business trying to know exactly what Excel is trying to write here. Okay, so once you are through, you hit what? Okay. And it brings up this for you as well as some extra details at the right side of my screen here. So you have pivot table, choose fields to add to report and all that. We've actually made a detailed video on pivot table. Go ahead to watch it up there now. In pivot table or pivot table, they actually say you are actually slicing and dicing what? Data. So there is no single rule as to how you achieve your final outcome or your final report. So make sure that you know what you are looking for so that eventually when you move this field around in these different areas, you'll be able to have a visual look of what your final report will look like. You can actually drag this field to these different areas to see what it looks like here. So name, you notice that name is like a filter here, and you can actually have a drop down of the names. So if you move names to column, it will look something like this, and you have the different names in the different columns. If you move names to rows, you have something like this. So on the different rows, if you move names to value, you should have this. Let's leave names in columns and let's see how moving department will go with us. So you have department under filters, you still have it as that. So if I select IT or HR, so I hit OK. So all the department under HR will be filtered out. Is that all right? But is this what we want to achieve? So let us see department under columns. That's okay. So let me try and move this aside also, so I will see what we have there. All right. So click this to call up this, but this way too lengthy. This is not what we want to achieve. Let us see department under rows. All right, let us see department under values. Okay, so let us have salary here and see. It's still not what it's not visually appealing. It's not visually appealing. It's okay. No, this still does not work. Salary here, and then department here, or department here, then salary here, then name here. How about this? That's super awesome. So count of name, we have this. What if name is here and we have salary here? Is all right? So you have grand total. Count of department is 8 departments, then have sum of salary. So you can have this report like this, and you can have supposing department is here. So supposing department is here, and we'll have name here. How it's gonna be. So you can also have this report like this. It's all right. So you are slicing and dicing the data. So for under finance, you have the total sum of salary is what? 5,000. HR total sum of salary is what? This. IT's total sum of salary is this. Do you notice that there's no single way of achieving what I want to get? All right. So based on eventually where I think my report is presentable enough. So make sure you take all this into consideration. So this is a good enough report for us to present for this data. So if you click outside the pivot table, all those pivot table details will go off, but if you click inside, it will come up back. So I have department under my rows, and I have count of name and sum of salary in this. So I can also decide to move department here, then move count of name here. Is that right? But I think the way it was before makes more sense. All right. So these are the many Excel features that you can use in as far as HR is concerned. Using human resources formulas and functions in Excel to answer questions and make better decisions will help you along your road to becoming a data-driven HR professional. It will also help you to understand what your embedded analytics tools tells you. Now that you are well equipped with the Excel features for your HR-related tasks, I'm sure you'll be able to save hours of your precious time on a daily basis. If you like this video, then go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. Also turn on your notification bell icon so that you get updates like this. If you have any question, drop it in the comments section below. Watch the video on your screen now to see how we're able to use the Excel function DATEDIF to solve many problems as well as look at many scenarios. Excel made easy.